What is up, wrestling fans? Welcome to another Pay-Per-Viewpoint edition of the Smark Out Moment Smack Talk podcast. We're in predictions mode right now for two different pay-per-views. We got some post-shows coming up on Saturday, so we're going to do a back-to-back recording here, starting off with the ROH Final Battle 2022 pay-per-view coming up in the afternoon on Saturday. And we'll be breaking that down in every method that we normally do here. But before we do that, let me introduce you who we are, in case you are brand new. I'm Tony Mango, joined by Callum Wiggins.
Hey there.
And Robert DeFelice.
Hello.
So, Final Battle has currently 5 matches announced for it, and we're going to get a lot more to the pre-show and probably even the main card later on this week. But we'll break them down in the hot tags for any kind of changes that'll happen on... I mean, I'm expecting them to announce some stuff on Dynamite tonight, and they might announce some stuff on Rampage.
FTR is going to get a fucking match. You know that FTR is going to wrestle.
Most likely, yeah. And, you know, they've got a couple other things that they tend to throw out there. They never do a 5-match card. It's not like NXT. So, as we break this down and we talk about the matches that we think are going to be added and everything that goes along with that, we want to know what you have to say. So drop your thoughts in the comment section below on YouTube. And while you are over there, make sure that you hit that like button, pass this along to anybody you think might be interested in checking it out by clicking on that share button. And also consider clicking on some of the other buttons that are there, like the thanks button or the join button. Those will give you a means to directly sponsor Smark Out Moment and help us out, help us keep the lights on and all. The join button gives you access to the same thing as the Patreon. You can find that on patreon.com/smarkoutmoment, but I definitely recommend between the two options, clicking on join on YouTube. Now, if you are listening to this on the audio only thing, like you're more...
Can I just be the detractor there? Because I think if you give on Patreon, more money goes to Tony. Give on YouTube, more money. You got to go through Google and...
It might be, but I also do have, like, for instance, our most recent Darkcast that you guys will be having coming up is it includes a video, and there's no way to see that on Patreon because Patreon doesn't let you see the video stuff. So
why don't you just do what ad-free shows does and just say... watch the video version and provide an unlisted YouTube link, and then you're good.
Because then you have to upload it twice, and then the unlisted thing people can share, and you don't have to have the subscription thing like that.
All right, I offered.
Yeah, option. It's one of those dumb things that if Patreon had their stuff set up correctly, then it wouldn't be a problem, but they don't. They might even have like a Vimeo link or something, and I don't have a Vimeo account because then I'd have to pay a couple $100, I think it is per year. But, and I can't afford that. Hence the whole reason why we have these things. So, I recommend either of those though. Of course, if you are more interested in just like the audio stuff, then the Patreon works just the same for 99 out of 100 different podcasts. Redbubble and TeePublic are also where you can pick up merchandise if you are interested in that. I know, 2 people just, pick up some mugs of things. Out of all things, of course, it's the one-way ticket to Pound Town design on a Mango Tees. I don't know why that one gets so many clicks and everything, but hey, you know.
I wonder why.
And yet nobody takes the facefuck one, the Facebook logo parody. So, you know, all this stuff is greatly appreciated, including the super chats when we do our post shows, which I am currently thinking we might do 2 of them this weekend instead of just doing the one. We'll figure that out as time goes on. But also another great way for you to help us out, this doesn't include any kind of money whatsoever, is to fill out the fan feedback survey that we have out right now on the website. If you see the link that's on YouTube right now, or if you go to the sidebar of smarkoutmoment.com, you'll find that link there. It's a quick survey, and it's just a means for you to tell me what you liked and what you didn't like, what we can improve on next year, so on and so forth. So take 3 minutes maybe and fill that out, and I will run down all those responses at the end of the year when we recap what happened in Smark Out Moment in 2022 and see what we can make things better for 2023. So, ROH Final Battle, as I said, we have 5 matches right now, and we are missing probably at least a handful of other ones, maybe at least 3 more will be added in there. FTR, I highly, highly, highly doubt that they are not going to defend their titles. I know that we've talked about this a little bit before. Might have been off podcast, I don't remember for sure, but maybe against the Gun Club seems like the most likely option, right?
That seems to be what they're building towards, or what they have seen. There has been at least some backstage segments pointing towards that.
Or we just get another Briscoes match, because why the fuck not? It seems to be. Yeah. It's not out of the question, you know.
The other alternative might be Jay Lethal and Jeff Jarrett, or Jay Lethal and Satnam Singh.
Man, I hope not.
I want Jeff Jarrett to be a Ring of Honor Tag Team Champion to close out the year, just because that's funny to me.
I don't know if there's anything, because I mean, ROH doesn't follow the same as AEW, and even AEW just has some random matches on cards sometimes. But
I know one match they'll at least have. They've been building on a Dark and Dark Elevation, which I have been watching, at least like infrequently. But they're going to do a 6-man tag team championship match. It'll be Dalton Castle and the boys against the Embassy.
Okay, so that's where I was going to get was, I don't know if they've been doing anything with the 6-man tag titles, but okay. If they're doing that on Dark and Dark Elevation, then no wonder I don't know, because I don't watch those shows.
Yeah, they've at least teased it. Like they had the Embassy win a 6-man tag against a bunch of jobbers, and then the Dalton Castle and the boys came out, and so it seemed that a challenge was made. It hasn't been made official yet, but we'll. I would highly doubt that match isn't on the card.
If it is, I'm just gonna go out on a limb here and say, give Brian Cage a real belt, please.
Yeah.
You've had this man for so long, and he was originally going to be a main eventer for you, and then everything changed. Give it to the Embassy, you know? I don't know what happened to Tully Blanchard Enterprises, but the Embassy's got roots in Ring of Honor, and why not?
If that match happens, I'm going to go ahead and say that the Embassy does win. But I think that FTR retains the ROH title.
Here's what I know. As of his most recent interview, Castle's not signed. So, Brian Cage and the Embassy are.
He's listed on the website, though.
Well, yeah, because he hasn't stopped wrestling for them.
Yeah, but I mean, that's potentially a sign that maybe he is vaguely signed, you know? Like, he hadn't really, crossed all the T's and dotted all the I's, but he's effectively signed. But I'm still going to say that Embassy would win that, and that Gun Club would not win the regular tag titles. And I don't think that there's really any other things that would, quote unquote, need to be on this card. Like, no other belts aren't represented or whatever. But they could just as easily be and it's Cheeseburger against Colt Cabana as well, or God knows what else.
Yeah, there's nothing absolutely set in stone that we would have to put on there. Like, I can imagine they could do some a secondary women's match with Willow Nightingale and somebody.
Mm-hmm.
You could do you could have Colt Cabana involved in a match. You could do something with I don't know. Cheeseburger doesn't seem to appear as often, so I don't know whether he's he definitely isn't signed, but I don't know if that's how available he is to those bookings. But yeah, you could literally take anybody from the AEW lower card and just put them on here and just have a good match just to fill things up. But
I'm gonna suggest the 6-man tag titles. Maybe do a Willow Nightingale against a Queen Aminata. I don't know. Again, I don't know who they have. Maybe just Willow Nightingale against Diamante. And then I would say Colt Cabana against Brian Johnson, because I think Brian Johnson will stay with Ring of Honor.
Hope so. Brian deserves to be landing in one of these major companies. Well, the matches that we do know, let's start breaking them down. And let's start off with the match that I have really nothing too much to say about because I don't know two of the people involved, which is Shane Taylor and JD Griffey against Swerve and Our Glory, who from the very start are we don't get along and we shouldn't be a tag team and we're going to split up, but we'll win the tag team titles and then we'll stick around forever. I don't understand what they're doing with this and why they're waiting. So even though they did this whole you lose the titles because they are separated and all thing, they're wrestling again as a tag team here. And I'm assuming that means that they're going to win this match and that they're stalling even more for the eventual split for some reason. I don't know why, but I don't know Shane Taylor and JD. I looked them up real quick, and it doesn't seem like they are like super big deals from what I had seen. So it gives me the impression that there are two people for Keith Lee and Swerve to beat to continue this story of like, hey, if we're on the same page, we do some good stuff, so maybe we should hash it out kind of deal. I don't know. Am I misinterpreting that, or do you guys know much more about Shane and JD?
I disagree. I can't say that I'm not super familiar with Shane Taylor and JD Griffey, but I know enough about Shane Taylor to know that he's not a big deal, but he does have a lot of Ring of Honor pedigree about him. He's former television champion, former six-man tag team champion, former tag team champion. I don't know whether he was tag team champion with Keith Lee, but he definitely was a tag team with Keith Lee in Ring of Honor. And they split up. I think it was I don't know which one. It was one turning on the other. I can't remember which way around it was. I don't think I was watching as prominently at that point in time. But they used to be a tag team, and they're no longer a tag team. And kind of the whole premise of this match is that Shane Taylor is with JD Griffey as part of what was termed as Shane Taylor Productions. And he's challenged Keith Lee, and Keith Lee needs to find a partner to take them on. And so who's he gone back to? He's gone back to Swerve. Because even though I guess he doesn't want to, I guess the prospects of potentially teaming with a guy that at least he knows that has chemistry with when they're both on the same page is better than entering a match for a 2-on-1 handicap match. So it's almost like, I don't know whether I can fully trust this guy, but I know that my odds with him are slightly better than going into a 2-on-1 handicap match. So that's where I think it's going to go. I think that this will be the final nail in the coffin for Swerve and Glory, whether this revolves around Swerve Strickland just turning on Keith Lee in the same way that Keith Lee turned on him. I'd say turned on him, but walked away in their match, and he'll just do the same thing, and Keith Lee will get beaten down. And so I think Taylor and Griffey will win, primarily because I think if Ring of Honor is getting a television show moving forward, then Shane Taylor will be someone they'll want to sign.
Yeah, Shane Taylor's going to get signed. Tony said that it was Keith Lee's idea to bring in Shane Taylor. So, again, huge part of Ring of Honor. Huge following for him in particular. I don't know who Griffey is, but I have seen Shane Taylor work, and I do think he's good. I hope this is the end of Swerve in Our Glory, because this story has just had so many twists and turns. And at one point, pliers and finger breakage, and it's been a bit much for me. I want to see Keith Lee go for a major singles championship. So Shane Taylor Promotions wins. Swerve in Our Glory is no more. Maybe Swerve turns, but Shane Taylor and Keith Lee have a mutual respect, and that can lead to some fun stuff on TV in the future.
So running this down again, am I the only one that's going Swerve in Our Glory?
Yes.
Okay. I'll be contrarian. Why not?
Why do you like these outcomes that we don't like, Tony?
I don't know. I'm flipping a coin for the most part when it comes to this match.
I mean, to be fair, I don't want to spend like too long on this card because they haven't built it up well enough to deserve it. But right. I think that it's pretty fucking dumb that they've brought back Swerve in Our Glory when they seem to split them up. I guess some strange booking.
Yeah.
Speaking of which,
well, which one were you thinking of for that one?
TV Championship.
The TV title. So that one is the ROH World Television Champion Samoa Joe, who has been feuding with, by proxy, Powerhouse Hobbs, but mostly Wardlow through the TNT Championship. And you would think that the fact that they did this match, this triple threat at Full Gear, and then Samoa Joe won the TNT title, and he's holding both titles, and Wardlow had said that he's coming for all the titles, including that he's going to get some vengeance back on Joe. You would think it would be Wardlow against Samoa Joe, but instead, it's Juice Robinson. But I think that the reasoning behind this is going to be, and I'm going to be really shocked if this isn't what happens. This is the one that I'm almost like more feeling guaranteed than anything else. I think Wardlow is going to interfere in the match, cost Samoa Joe the title. Juice Robinson gets signed, and immediately a championship that doesn't really, screw up any of the plans that are currently going on with AEW. It's not like they're like taking the title off of MJF or anything along those lines, or, diverting the All Atlantic Championship with Orange Cassidy. You give Juice Robinson the World Television Championship, he immediately seems like he is being treated like a big deal. And Samoa Joe's got the TNT title, so they can continue that Wardlow feud and just kind of move on. I think Robinson's winning this belt by proxy of Wardlow interfering.
That's definitely a possibility. I think that it centers the title feud between Samoa Joe and Wardlow on the TNT Championship, which I guess is the reason why they're not feuding, or they're not having the match here, because Tony probably wants to save that for Winter is Coming, or like further on down the line, to try and build an episode of Dynamite around that, or make that the attractions of an episode of Dynamite. So yeah, I understand why they're not doing that. Juice Robinson is the bit that confuses me a little bit, because again, I don't know. Juice is weird in his not the guy. The guy's I don't know. I don't know the guy. I don't know how weird he is.
I thought you were talking about juice itself, like orange juice, apple juice.
It's weird. Pulp's weird.
Pulp, I'm not a big fan of unless it's fiction.
Well, Juice Robinson's finisher is Pulp Friction, so you can get that at least.
Nice. I like him better now.
But it's more about the way that he likes to work people in terms of his contracted status, because he tried to get I know Sean Ross Sapp and a few other people last year to suggest that he had ended his contract with New Japan when he then re-signed with New Japan and joined Bullet Club. But that seems to have run its course pretty quickly, or he doesn't seem to be as actively involved in Bullet Club stuff anymore. He's certainly not the most prominent member. Like, he's far, far down the pecking order. So maybe he is seeking the opportunity to branch out into AEW instead, and chance to revitalise his career, or not necessarily AEW, but at least Ring of Honor, and becoming the television champion could be a way of cementing him as, okay, he's part of this promotion, maybe not on a full-time basis, but on enough of a consistent basis that we can make him a champion and be trustworthy. I mean, he's married to Toni Storm, and Toni Storm is like as locked in the women's division as you could hope for. Like, she's one of their top stars.
Former linear champion now.
Yeah.
Hallelujah.
So I think that there is a possibility that Juice Robinson does win due to Wardlow interfering. Part of me just thinks that they're just going to try and keep Samoa Joe strong and have him retained. So I think that they've just brought Juice Robinson in because he has name value for the time being, and that Joe is going to win. But it is a weird match to put on, just because Joe's recently, I guess, turned heel. It depends on, they don't really do heels and faces in some scenarios how as cut and dry as others. But Robinson, at least from his previous time in New Japan, is a definitive heel. So if this is heel versus heel, I don't know how it's going to really work.
I wish this was any other match. Like, I do. I want Samoa Joe, while you still have him, because let's all remember everything, folks. He was forced into not wrestling for quite a while. So while you still have Joe, we should be putting him in bangers. We should be putting him up against, like he's fighting Darby tonight. I think that's awesome. I want to see him fight everybody he possibly can. And I think it's a damn shame we'll probably never see him against Punk again. But, like, we should be putting this dude in banger matches, and he's just going to fight Juice. I assume that Juice will win because he is a new signee. But I can also see him just not. And then what happens if there's no Wardlow and there's no Juice winning? It's just, oh, Joe wins. Kind of sucks. But what? Like, am I wrong?
No, I don't think you're wrong when it comes to that. And, like, this is one of the issues that I have with, like, the AEW and ROH kind of booking, where I think that they kind of stressed a little bit too much of wouldn't it be interesting if person versus person without necessarily building up too much in the grand scheme. But
I think this is Joe needs an opponent. Juice is here. Go Juice. And I think if Juice wins, then we know, okay, he's got plans for Juice as part of Ring of Honor TV, away from AEW, where Samoa Joe should be.
See, I usually don't mind that approach to booking. Like, as long as you have a solid handful of top matches that you built up, that are the real kind of attention grabbers, then you can kind of just say, okay, this person against this person because it will be a good match. I want to see good match. So I'm totally fine at having a mix of those on any pay-per-view card. But they haven't done enough job to really make the top matches on this card must see enough. So adding a match like this doesn't have the same effect.
So I'm going Joe loses because of Wardlow. What are you going with, Cal?
I'll go with Joe retaining.
I'll go with Joe loses because of Wardlow. It makes sense.
Now, this one I'm about 50-50 on. Athena is challenging the ROH Women's World Champion Mercedes Martinez. And as far as I'm aware, yeah, correct me if I'm wrong, this is just another one of those Athena gets a title match because type deals, right?
Not.
What?
Well, it's.
Have they done anything to like set up a story for this?
Yeah, I watched Dark. Athena.
No.
Story for this. They've set up a story for Athena. Yeah, they set up a story for Athena. Athena's story is that she's turned heel.
Yeah,
she's been a lot more aggressive in the ring. It all stems from that Jody Threat match,
where she was just like working a little stiff.
Yeah, and so both sides got a bit of a talking to there, and they decided to lean into that, make her more aggressive in all of her matches. Obviously now more in a more scripted sense, and so she turned heel off the back of that. And I think, correct me if I'm wrong, and Rob, you might know better than me on this sense, but I've primarily only been watching Rampage and Dynamite. I believe we've seen Mercedes Martinez once on TV in the last 3 months or so.
Yes, she was injured.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I know yeah.
So she was cleared, I think, the very week of Full Gear, and they put her right back in the ring because she wanted to be ready for this show. The story that Tony is pushing here is Ring of Honor is an honorable company. Athena's not being very honorable. She's beating up referees. She's beating up her opponents. I'm going to be blunt here. Athena needs to win. I have had bad luck with saying women need to win their title matches, but Athena needs to win here.
I think you've had bad luck promoting Ember Moon in the past too, and Athena.
Well, listen, I said this when she went up against Jade, and they kind of made it true. She's done nothing.
Mm-hmm.
She's done nothing. She needs to win this title and be a fixture on Ring of Honor television. And realistically, maybe that's the best place for her because she thrived a little bit on NXT, which is a smaller environment. Give her the belt. Mercedes doesn't need the belt. Athena's a name. You can, if you're building a TV promotion, imagine saying in your press release, let's say, coming soon to whatever HBO Max is going to be called in the next 2 years.
Max, apparently. You've
got former WWE star Athena. You've got former WWE World Champion Chris Jericho. Athena is somebody you can build a promotion around. And more importantly than that, she's so fucking good. And nobody sees it anymore because they basically Zigglered her. She's been Zigglered through her whole career, and now people don't think she's good.
He's become a verb.
And I think it's a damn shame, and she needs to win here.
I think she's winning too. And I don't have a whole lot of faith in that as much as I do with the Samoa Joe one, which maybe I shouldn't necessarily on that one either. But I kind of look at it as like, all right, Martinez has had this title long enough that if they switch the title, it's not like they just put it on her and that it would be weird. And Athena's younger. Maybe Martinez isn't somebody that they want to necessarily have as champion going into some kind of a TV deal. Maybe she is. I don't know. Maybe that's the plan. But she kind of strikes me more as somebody who is there to kind of like be a veteran more so than to be the person in the division. And if you're not going to give the belt to Athena, you might as well just release her.
Yeah, see, like I'm not gonna go that far.
Yeah, just put her back in NXT or something, you know.
Well, I think Tony might be a little overdoing that.
Where are you feeling on this, Callum? You think it's a potentially a title win for Athena, or do you think that this is just somebody for Mercedes to beat?
Well, they definitely should give Athena the title, primarily just due to the fact that she's the one that has the story and the gimmick attached to her right now. So she's the focus of this story. Mercedes is in this story because she is the champion, and that's the only reason that she's in this story. So you need to give the title to the one that is the more primary focus, which is Athena. She could be a good heel champion for a while, especially if they do, well, as and when they do set up a TV or streaming deal or whatever it ends up being for Ring of Honor. And I would like her to eventually be feuding with Ruby Soho over it. Because that would be a good spot for Ruby to be in.
Is a fucking genius. This guy knows what he's talking about. That's what we need to see.
That's what should be to follow up with what you were saying. Like Athena didn't do anything. Ruby hasn't done anything.
Yes. So Callum is right. Do that. And then I think we'll be good.
Yeah, because they've already kind of, with those two, it's kind of hard. It's going to be hard to rehab them in AEW's eyes. Whereas Ring of Honor, it's a bit more of a fresh start for them. And they get to be especially with those two ability in the ring, they can be like the top of the Ring of Honor women's division and leave AEW to like Britt Baker, Jamie Hayter, Tony Storm, Jade Cargill, those types. Or you could have Willow Nightingale beat Athena. That'd be good as well.
I'm also good with that.
All right. Well, those titles I think are much more up for grabs than the ROH Pure Championship, which, look, this is something that I've said before a million different times. I'm going to say it again and all that. You get two people in the ring that do a good job. It's going to be a good match. But at the same time, I am not interested in seeing Daniel Garcia against Wheeler Yuta again. We've seen it a couple times already, and it feels like they didn't have anything else to do, so they said run it back. I feel like that's very underwhelming. And if it just goes to Wheeler Yuta again, then I'm going to feel like the Daniel Garcia stuff was a failed experiment. And if it goes to Wheeler Yuta not winning the belt, then I'm going to go, why am I watching this again? I could just watch the other ones. So I get, and I echo the same opinions of like, yeah, the match will be good, but that doesn't mean I necessarily want to spend the time to rewatch it again. I don't rewatch all of my favorite movies of all time all the time. And, sometimes I'm in the mood for something like that. Sometimes I'm not. On this day where there's going to be a lot of wrestling stuff, I most likely am going to end up being like, I'd rather cut out that half hour and spend that time doing something else. I'm going to go Daniel Garcia retains, and that this is just because they think, hey, the third match will be the settling the rubber match thing and wasting time, basically. I know it sounds so like, oh, you hate everything, but it's like, yeah, I don't hate it. It's going to be a fine match, if not a great match. I just don't really have hype for it. Callum, tell me why you love it.
Oh, I mean, I'm in a similar boat to you in the sense that it just feels like the whole Daniel Garcia, won't he join the Blackpool Combat Club, which I guess will have to be renamed now, but we'll cross that when do it. But I think that it's clouded up a lot of stuff, and there hasn't been a huge amount of focus on Daniel Garcia post that, because the focus has had to be on Jericho, because Jericho's the head of that faction. He's the Ring of Honor World Champion, so your title has fallen by the wayside. I don't even know if he hasn't defended it very often since he's won it. And if he has, it's mainly been on Dark or Elevation. So I think this one does, even though as you've rightly said, it's going to be a great match because of the two people involved, and they have a lot of animosity between each other on screen, and they have a lot of chemistry in the ring. I think that it will take some doing to win the crowd over due to the lackluster build between these two aspects of the Blackpool Combat Club versus Jericho Appreciation Society. So I'm still looking forward to it because the match will be very good. But I can't say that it's been the best bill or it's the thing that I'm most excited for on this card. And I think that there's a good possibility that gun to my head, Daniel Garcia wins and retains the title, but I think there's still a chance they'll give it to Wheeler Yuta because realistically, Blackpool Combat Club is probably going to disband in the next couple of weeks or months. So Wheeler Yuta could find himself on the back burner if he isn't given some element of prominence. And what I probably expect is that he'll lose this match and he'll eventually find himself turning heel in a feud with Brian Danielson. Fuck. But
Brian Danielson.
Yeah,
that's his full name.
And but we'll see. I think that Garcia retains. So yeah.
So there's nothing. First of all, we're not like this isn't for points or anything, and we're not doing anything in the sense that like everything's riding on my pick here. So I'm just gonna have some fun with this one. I think Yuta wins by kicking Daniel Garcia in the balls and not necessarily turning heel on Garcia, but realizing that, I'm tired of this. And Danielson overlooked me. He was more concerned with you, and Regal's leaving, and fuck this. I want my belt back, and I don't care what I have to do to get it. Otherwise, like, this story has long since been a bit played out. Like, remember when everybody was so interested in what Daniel Garcia was going to do and him potentially turning on Jericho? That didn't happen.
Yeah.
He's kind of just back to being a lackey. So do something here. And even if they don't and they have a banger match, fine. Maybe that's what they're going to do. Be on Ring of Honor and have these banger matches.
I need to make sure I write this down. The Garcia stuff for my end of the year recap stuff as being one of those most underwhelming potential feuds of the year. That being like, oh, this could be a thing. Haha, it isn't. Never mind. Let's go back to the status quo. So I feel like nothing's changed since the previous Garcia Yuta match, except that they've wasted time and can't help but to feel that Garcia is just going to retain. And then, to be honest, I kind of carry that into what the main event is going to be here, the ROH World Championship. Chris Jericho is defending against Claudio Castagnoli, with the idea in mind that if Claudio loses, he has to join the Jericho Appreciation Society. And that is not my favorite type of stipulation, because to me, you're sort of in a lose-lose situation. If Claudio wins, we're back to the, why'd you put the belt on Jericho then? And you just kind of stalled and you're back to where you were before. You probably should have just kept it on Claudio in the meantime. Like, I've enjoyed the Jericho stuff, so I want him to retain. But at the same time, I don't really want to follow the story of Claudio being an unwilling part of the JAS. And with the Blackpool Combat Club basically disbanding at this point, because look, William Regal's gone. Jon Moxley is at an odds with Bryan Danielson, who's at odds with Wheeler Yuta, and they don't seem to be really getting along all that well. Anybody, for the most part. You might as well just get rid of the BCC. Claudio necessarily being a part of JAS isn't something where I think I'd take his next direction. Probably would have him just be a guy. And I don't know. I think if Claudio wins, I'm going to be disappointed. If Jericho wins, then I'm not going to be interested in the feud that follows. I much more would have rather had, like, instead of this Wardlow Joe thing, maybe it should have been Jericho against Joe. Or maybe when we were talking, maybe we're talking about what we were talking about a few months ago, which was, what if Daniel Garcia goes ahead and does that whole thing with Jericho? And this could have been like pure champion against world champion, or merge the titles, or he loses the pure title to Sammy Guevara because Jericho screws him over, and then you get Garcia trying to win the world title from Jericho. Like, there's so many different ways to round this that I think would have been so much more interesting, instead of just, let's do the thing we did the last time again. I'm going to say Jericho wins.
The build up to Jericho's first Ring of Honor pay-per-view being he's just going to face the guy he already beat is oddly underwhelming for this company. When you could have, quite frankly, just dragged out Danielson and done Jericho Danielson the title at Final Battle, given the legacy of the Ring of Honor Championship that Danielson has. You know, Jericho has to win. Has to. Otherwise, you know, if Jericho wins, Claudio has something to do, even if it's not the best story. Jericho continues as Ring of Honor will be building their television brand, and he has to win. Like, it's kind of taken me out of this one, besides the lackluster build. I don't think there's a question. I think Jericho's winning because otherwise, you know, what are you really going to do moving forward? Does Ring of Honor just become the place where, okay, yeah, he's just a guy, but I think Claudio should be on AEW TV. I don't even want him in Ring of Honor. I think he's kind of above that. You know, I think he should be on a major program, potentially becoming a main eventer. So I think Jericho wins. Eventually, he'll lose the belt to, I was going to say Garcia, but Garcia's kind of lost his steam so bad. Who knows? Maybe they have an ace up their sleeve. Maybe they have like a...
Well, they got rid of the ace.
Well, they needed to. Maybe they have someone... Maybe it is Joe. Yeah, I'd be all right with Joe being away from AEW TV in the sense of he was one of the most dominant Ring of Honor champions ever. I'd be all right with a few people, but right now, with no clear path, I think it should stay on Jericho.
This is all building towards the monumental Cody Rhodes return.
Roads of Honor, I told you.
Or Jonathan Gresham.
But Gresham.
Which of those is most unlikely at the moment. But I think that the element of Claudio having to join the JAS is an interesting wrinkle they put onto it. At least they've given this stakes beyond the title match because, as everyone's pointed out, Jericho has no reason to face Claudio unless Claudio had something to sacrifice in return. So I'm not super keen on the whole somebody is forced to join a faction against their will. And that's primarily because the last time I really super recall it happened, it was John Cena joining the Nexus and how bad that was. So I don't hold out much hope for it being great beyond that point. But we know that Claudio has a good tag team partnership with Jake Hager. You know, and he likes that hat. so maybe they'll both have hats and maybe they'll both like hats. And that'll be the thing. But it would also add towards Willie Yuta's if he was to go into a heel turn and the whole disbanding of the Blackpool Combat Club, because the only guy that Willie Yuta seems to hang out with is Claudio, and so if he's forced away from it, then just Wheeler could just basically go insane based on the fact that everyone's just going and I'm crazy about it now. But I think there's still a lot to be gained from not so much Jericho's star power for a burgeoning Ring of Honor television show or streaming service, because I think would be important, but the whole him taking on all of Ring of Honor, there's still a lot of wax left in that candle. And so I think that you don't want to just end it pretty much the way that this whole run started, which was him beating Claudio on that episode of Dynamite. And I think the match would be great because their match on Dynamite, where the title changed hands, was probably on a really stacked card because that was Grand Slam, right? It was Grand Slam where he won the title. So that was a super stacked card, and it was the best match, at least in my opinion, on that card. So I have no doubt they can conjure up that same magic again for the rematch. I just think, it doesn't have the same steam behind it because it feels like a retread, whereas you could have done something a bit different with Jericho. Absolutely, the Daniel Garcia thing would have made a lot of sense. I was still into the idea of Daniel Garcia realigning himself with Jericho because I thought it was an interesting wrinkle, but the follow-up to that has been poor. So in hindsight, it would have been better to continue the momentum of Daniel Garcia as the babyface, and the wrestler Daniel Garcia beating Jericho for the title would be a much more interesting story. going into this show. But yeah, the main event should still, at least by the initial 5 that have been announced, it seems like the best match on the card. I will agree by saying that I think Jericho is going to retain the championship. But yeah, it's at least that there's still an element of unpredictability about it. So yeah, it's still something that I'm looking forward to, even though it could have been better.
Yeah, like I know that Tony is a bit burned out on what's about to happen on Saturday. I actually think it's kind of nice. I'm looking forward to the early Ring of Honor pay-per-view. I'm looking forward to NXT. I'm always in favor of shows with stakes happening, and I think it'll be entertaining. And I'm looking forward to what Ring of Honor will do in the future, because hopefully, Tony Khan says, and Ring of Honor in 2023 is headed to insert network here.
That's the last prediction that I'm thinking is, do you think we're going to get any kind of announcement by the end of this pay-per-view of a TV deal?
I think for a fact we are.
Yeah, I'd say now is the time to do it, because if you don't do it now, then I don't know when you're going to be able to do it. If you don't do it now, you basically said that, okay, I've had this thing for a year. I don't know how to get rid of it, or no, I don't know how to put it up for an actual TV show. So nobody wants it. It's like, what have I done?
Mm-hmm.
And just runs out with like just money falling out of his pockets. He's gonna have to join a JBL's poker tournament to get some of the money back. It's gonna be.
That's the only way to debut Tony Khan on WWE TV.
I don't think that we are going to get a TV announcement.
Well, you're a cynic. What can I say?
Yeah, because I honestly think that with the HBO Max, Warner, Discovery Plus, blah, 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 kind of things, I think that they are not in a spending mentality right now, and that's really the only place that it could go. It's got to be either that or YouTube. I don't think we're going to get like an extra show on TBS or TNT. And then, since those companies are factored in as well, putting a show on network television or even cable or anything isn't something that just happens on a whim. Like, you can start just doing this on YouTube tomorrow. And if he decides to do it, he puts it up there just the same as AEW Dark, and they just move on with whatever production costs that they do, and that's fairly fine. But I think that HBO Max and all that, they also need to incorporate some sort of live format, and they don't necessarily have that up yet. If they're still debating if they're just going to call the company Max, like the streaming services is going to be called Max. So I think we're a little bit away from that. I don't think that they want to necessarily put ROH as like a pre-taped show on something like Max, and then just do the pay-per-views on Bleacher Report Live and so on. That I think could be changing too. I don't know. Despite the fact that I worked out, I don't have any inside information about that. But
what good are you then, Tony?
Not much at all. I didn't even waste a second there. It's my go-to answer. But I think that they are going to basically sort of treat it as, well, this was a great show, and we're hoping that in 2023 we can figure it out what we're going to do.
No, they're announcing it. So I'll say, Tony, during the pre-show media scrum, somebody asked and he said, I'll be more happy to talk about it on Saturday. So they're going to announce something. I'll say this. Maybe it doesn't have to go to TV right away. Remember, AEW wasn't on TV right away. It was on Bleacher Report Live with the story building stuff on the weekly Being the Elite. WatchROH.com was recently relaunched, and it's got all of the events that they recently held. Maybe they're looking at an in-house streaming thing for now.
WatchROH.com. Does that go anywhere right now?
Yeah, check it out. I think this loaded up today.
Let's see, WatchROH.com. It's got the right graphic now. It's not the old school graphic. Does seemingly have Old ROH events.
Including the 2 ones under Tony.
Is it a subscription thing that you have to pay for? Is that what it is? I'm seeing sign in, which I don't create an account yet.
They had Honor Club, but I don't think this doesn't look like it's that. It looks like this is what they're turning that into. So think about that.
Do you have the account thing where it says sign in? Do you have any of that set up?
I never did have an account for Honor Club.
I mean, maybe that is their plan. Maybe they're just like, look, nobody wants to buy it, so we'll just produce it on our own and hopefully get some subscriptions and all. But
either way, I think we're getting a weekly show at the start of 2023.
I'll go so far as to say, as far as my prediction went, we're not going to get any information about a TV show like it's on TBS, TNT, any along those lines, nor are we going to get it's streaming on Max and it's going to be weekly, that kind of thing. If it's this Watch ROH thing, that could make some sense to me. If it's not that, I don't think we're getting any announcement. And I mean, that's Final Battle right now. As I said before, we are going to get some more matches probably announced on Dynamite tonight in a few hours. And they might still even announce more on Rampage. They have a tendency to do that sometimes where, they don't give everything to Excalibur ahead of time, but he'll probably take a deep, deep breath and be like, all right, ROH Final Battle is happening in this. It's a pay-per-view match. This one for like 10 minutes. But they
should rib Rick Abani and try to make him do it.
See if they go like a stopwatch between the two of them and who can read it the fastest. So again, if they do announce anything different, we will address that on the hot tags and give you some updates on that and some updated predictions in case they do change anything that's already announced. Like this match is now no DQ, or somebody's been replaced because they're injured, or whatever they might do. I don't know. Maybe they even just incorporate some other story elements. Like now Claudio says, and if I do win, then Jericho has to clean my gutters. I don't know. Paint my fence.
Also, I just signed up. They're asking you for $9.99 a month for Honor Club.
Okay.
Sounds like that's it.
All right. So I won't be doing that necessarily, but
I am shocked.
Yeah, you are shooketh. I know. And as we still don't know 100% for sure what we're doing with the post shows, my current idea is I think that this is probably going to end before NXT fully starts. Most likely, if this is a pre-show at 3, the main show at 4, it's not going to be a 4-hour event from 4 to 8. Or shouldn't be, I should say, at the very least. There's no way that this should be a 5-hour show. But I think it's going to end by 7. And that from 7 to 8, mostly 7 to 7:30, the kickoff of NXT Deadline, we'll probably be able to get our post-show in between there. So that's the current game plan. And for anybody who's interested in checking out what that's going to be, make sure that you are subscribed to this YouTube channel and ring that little notification bell as well, because that way you get those email alerts when the video goes up and we are live for it. But also pay attention to facebook.com/group/the Megamaniacs, because that has the post information about like the live discussion thread, and then I'll post a link there as well. Basically, if you don't know how this works, let me know. Send me a message, drop a comment. I'll give you more information, but you probably should know by now how this does play out. And we hope to see you there. But in the meantime, as well, you can click on a whole bunch of other things. Go to smarkoutmoment.com. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter at smarkoutmoment. Go over to fanboysanonymous.com for everything that's happening over there. And go to amangotree.com and anthonymango.com. They both end up in the same space where you can see a link list of everything that's going on, including my personal accounts at Tony Mango. So be sure to check out all that stuff and check out what these guys are up to as well.
Yeah, you can follow me everywhere at Dude Felice. Twitter, Instagram, Twitch. At some point, maybe I'll still make a Mastodon. I still have the app on my phone for some reason. So, just keep following Dude Felice everywhere. Eventually, dudefelice.com. Eventually, maybe I just bring back some other stuff because I'm just bored, quite frankly. But follow me everywhere. WrestleZone, Fightful, Inside the Ropes. That's all my writing. You can check out my link tree. It's in the bio of all my social medias. And yeah, I now turn you over to Callum.
So you can find me on Twitter at weekmeister14. On smarkmoment.com, you can check out the power rankings, which is my week-to-week contribution to the website, where I rank the WWE superstars from 10 to 1. And yeah, put in a few honorable mentions. You can check out the league table that I've been building up all year, see who has been appearing on it the most. And if you are more interested in tables, then you should also be checking out the Fantasy League, where you can see the spreadsheet with all the points that every superstar that we drafted way back in April or May, one of those 2 months, that have been picking up the points every single week, see who's top of the standings. It's me, spoiler. And yeah, follow all that stuff on smarkmoment.com, or you can check out the Fantasy League directly at www.fantasyleague.com.
And remember, everybody, to vote on that fan feedback survey to tell us more information about what you like and what you don't like from Smark Out Moment, because I like improving, and I'm sure that you want us to as well. And hit that like button if you enjoyed this. And stay tuned for more. But for now, this has been another Smark Out Moment, and we are being counted out.